Okay, previous video with this bike, when I turned the fuel tap on, I didn't get any fuel flow into this fuel line. I got it every now and then with the reserve on, but when it was just turned on in the down position, no fuel flow. So I took the fuel tap off and I found that in the on and reserve position I can get air and fluid through. That means that it'll flow straight through from the tank and out of the petcock. So there's a big open hole where the thread is, and fuel will flow through the fuel tap. However, when I connect it up to the carburetor, then no fuel flow with the petcock on the on position. It also won't flow when the engine's running. The engine will conk out. So this video is going to be short and sweet. Just two simple tests. The first test is to take the fuel tank off, plug the end of the line and see if fuel will flow into the line. The second test is to take this fuel line off. You can see that it's a little bit crimped, but it's still open, and fluid will flow through. But the second test is to replace the old fuel line with new fuel line. Okay, so let's have a look and see what happens this time. You may be able to see there that that's an empty fuel line. So now I'll turn it down to the on position. I've got no idea what it is. An intermittent problem. Okay, we've got fuel flow. Here we go. We can see there the fuel's flowed into the line. So obviously when I turn it to reserve, it's not going to make any difference because the fuel line's already filled up. Now that didn't happen last weekend. I couldn't get fuel flow. So that what that says to me is it could be something like a an inlet fuel inlet valve or float position. It seems that the bowl could be empty and that's why it's flowed in. Okay, so I'll do the tests anyway, and I'll begin that now. Okay, so I've got the tank off the bike. That's the fuel line. Now I'll turn it to on, and there's going to be fuel flow through the line. Okay, so now I'll plug the end of the line just to see if there's any possibility of a vacuum affecting the flow out of the line. So I'll turn it on now. Interesting, no fuel flow. No fuel flow. That line is empty. Okay, so if the float bowl is up and there's air in the line, then no fuel flow will happen because fuel won't flow through a line full of air that's blocked at the end. Now I'll put it on reserve. Nothing. Very interesting. So just to make the point, I'm going to remove this the blockage here, the screw, and we'll see that fuel will flow out. I've just got to situate myself so that I can catch the fuel, and I'll point it down a bit. Should see fuel come straight out of the line. There we go. Okay, very interesting. Okay, so what I'll do now is I'll turn it off. We'll see that become empty, the line become empty. I'll put the plug in the end of the line and turn it on, and we're going to see that there is no fuel in the line. Well, I've got to say that that's very interesting. I thought that what would happen is you turn on the fuel the fuel's on now, but the end's plugged, and you know, the air would just go up into the tank, and the fuel would take its place and flow into the line. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with the tank or the type of fuel hose I'm using. It's got something to do with the carburetor not allowing more fuel into the carburetor. So yeah, that's the fuel shut-off valve, or the float bowl. Okay, so I've got a new fuel line. We know that the fuel bowl is full of fuel, and I'll turn this on, the fuel tap, and just see what happens. Okay, nothing, no fuel flow. So the first time at the start of the video, when we turned on the petcock, then there was fuel flow because the bowl was empty. Then the fuel, after the fuel flow filled up the float bowl, then it doesn't allow any more fuel in, because the fuel shut-off valve inside the carburetor is up, because the float bowl is up because of the fuel flow into the bowl. Okay, so if I start the bike up, the fuel being used should create the or should allow the fuel bowl to drop down and allow more fuel into the hose. So we'll test that out. Okay, so the fuel wasn't on. Now there's been a bit of fuel flow. Some very strange things going on with this fuel flow. It actually won't run, but there we go. You see, sort of bubbles every now and then. Okay, so around the back of the carburetor there, that there is the fuel bowl drain screw. So what I'm going to do is turn that out and allow some fuel to come out, and just see if fuel will flow into the fuel line. Okay, I'll turn the, oh there we go, it's going to flow in now. See, that fuel line's full. Okay, I'll undo the float bowl drain screw. Okay, the fuel's flowing out and fuel seems to be flowing in. Okay, so that's the fuel valve just in there. That's the top of it. That's like the handle of the fuel valve. The fuel valve sits in here, and this is the float bowl. I did adjust this so that this ridge along here was level, but it was originally down a bit, and you may be able to see that when I raise the fuel bowl, nothing really happens with the inlet valve. That's the inlet valve through there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just lift up this pin a little bit, so that the float bowl sits a little bit further down at the front there. Okay, so that's how I've got it there. Okay, so while I've got the carburetor here, I'll give it another clean out. This will be about the second big clean out and about the fifth inspection of the carburetor. This time I've got some throttle and body carby cleaner, so we'll see how it goes. To remove the float bowl, there's an arrow there, and you just drive this pin out that way. When you drive the pin out, don't smash this. This is plastic. That's the fuel inlet. So I've got that plastic hanging off the edge of the brick here. It's not contacting the brick, so I'll drive it out now. Okay, so there's the pin there. So yeah, I just used a cotter pin to drive the pin out. So that's a diaphragm. You don't want to tear that. Okay, I'll take out the main jet. I've got an 8mm screwdriver there. Okay, I'll remove the secondary jet.